Hey guys, how's it going? This is Jay once again with another tutorial video. And this time around, I'm going to show you the process of setting up MediaWiki, which is an awesome wiki engine that you can host to have a central place for all of your documentation and notes. In fact, I set it up very recently for this channel. Wiki.learnlinux.tv is available right now. Going forward, I'm going to be putting show notes there so you could go there and see code and commands for various videos and tutorials that I have. And I just figured that'd be a very useful resource for you guys. But in addition to that, while I was setting it up, I figured maybe there's some value in showing you guys how to set it up as well, in case any of you would like to set up a wiki for personal use, for your company, or whatever your use case might be. So let's go ahead and get right into it. I'm going to go ahead and go to the Cloud Manager, which is actually cloud.linode.com. And I already have an account, so I'm going to go ahead and log into that, and I will be right back. All right, so here in the Linode dashboard, you can see that I currently have two resources running right here. I have the forums and the wiki, both for this here YouTube channel. And what I'm actually going to do is create a brand new server so that I can walk you through the process that I went through when I actually set up this wiki right here. So I'll click Create, and I'm going to create a Linode. So I can just click Show Older Images right here. And then I'm going to click on Ubuntu 18.04. And now I'm going to go ahead and scroll down. And here what you want to do is choose a location that's nearest you. I'm just going to go ahead and choose this US location here on the far right. But there's other locations that you can choose, so go ahead and choose accordingly. And then from here, we can choose our plan. So here's a list of standard options right here, but I'm going to go ahead and choose Nanode, which is the lower cost version. And basically what this gives you is one CPU, 25 gigabytes of storage, and 1 gigabyte of RAM. If you need more than that, though, you could certainly consider one of these options. But I'm going to go ahead and just stick with this, the $5 a month version right here. And now what I'm going to do is give it a label. So I'm going to just call it MediaWiki because I'm not feeling very creative today. And for the root password, I highly recommend you generate something secure. Otherwise, you run the risk of outside intrusion. So let's go ahead and type in the password that I want to give it. Now here for backup, this is optional. You don't have to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and click Create. And you can see right now it's actually creating it. It's basically going to apply this IP address right here. And what I'm going to do is just click here to copy this into my clipboard here. I'm going to wait for this to be created, and then what I'm going to do is connect to it via SSH. All right, so we can see that the Linode here is created. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my terminal, make that full screen for you guys, and I'll increase the font size. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and use SSH, and the username is root, and I'm going to go ahead and paste in the IP address here. Now, if you're not using Linux already like I am, you can use another client such as Putty, and there's a number of others that'll give you SSH access. But essentially what I'm doing is I'm using the root user for SSH, and the SSH connection is going to be going to this server at this IP address, which is the Linode that I just created. I'll go ahead and press enter, and I'll type yes, type in the password, and press enter. And you can see now that I am in my SSH session here. I'm connected to the actual server. First of all, I don't recommend using root though. You actually would want to create a user for yourself. So what you're going to do first of all is add user. I'm going to add J for myself. You would just add whatever you want your username to be. I'll press enter. For the password, I'll type that in. You just create a password and type it in again. And you could fill out this information. I'm just going to go ahead and bypass that by pressing enter each time. Is the information correct? I'll press enter to default for yes. And if I just ls again /home, you can see I have my user there, and then etc password, we have my user there at the bottom. So now I have a user for myself, but my user can't do anything useful yet because it doesn't have privileges. So what I'm going to do is add my user to the sudo group. So user mod dash lowercase a, uppercase g. The group I want to add my user to is sudo, and the user I want to add to that group is mine, J. I'll press enter, and if I type groups J, you can see that I am a member of that group. So what I can do is just log out. Control D is the quickest way to do that. And then what I can do is hit the up arrow. I could change the root username to mine, press enter. There we go. So at this point, we want to make sure that sudo works. And the easiest way to do that is sudo and then a command that's very basic. So ls is harmless. I'll press enter. And it needs my password. And I don't have any files here, but we can see that the command is successful. And basically that means that we have access as our username to do administrative commands, so that's all set. So with that out of the way, we don't want to allow root login anymore because that's just a security risk. So I'm going to use sudo nano, that's a text editor, etc ssh sshd underscore config. That's basically the config file for ssh. I'll press enter. And then what we want to do is find the root login section down here. And where it says permit root login, we actually want to say no. We do not want that. So I'll change it to no, and then I'll do Control O, enter to save the file, Control X to exit out. And I'm going to do sudo systemctl restart ssh. And from that point on, now we don't allow root login via SSH. There's additional things for security we should do, but I want to get right into the main content, which is setting up MediaWiki. So I'm going to go ahead and clear my screen. And before we go any further, just a couple of quick housekeeping things we should do. So we should install updates because we want to make sure we're starting with all the security updates because this is publicly accessible. So let's just do this. Sudo apt update to update the package repositories, ampersand sudo apt dist upgrade. And the ampersand will basically mean this command will run to update the package repositories. If this command is successful, it will then run this next one right here. I'll press enter. And we can see that we have 56 packages here that have updates for security or other reasons. And I'll press enter and allow those to download. All right, so the packages have installed and updated there. So this next thing is optional, just something that bugs me. It says local host right here. I prefer to have the correct host name set because I want to know what I'm connected to. So I'm going to do sudo nano etc hostname, enter, and I'm going to change localhost and call that MediaWiki. Control O, enter, Control X. And then I'm also going to edit etc hosts as well. So what I'm going to do is basically add an additional line right here, 127.0.1.1, and I'm going to also give it the name of MediaWiki. So it can resolve itself basically. Control O, enter, Control X. And what I'm going to do now is reboot because we installed updates, so we want to make sure that we take advantage of those security updates immediately. So I'm going to go ahead and reboot the machine. So to do that is sudo reboot and enter. And just give it a couple of minutes, and then you just press the up arrow and then re-execute your SSH command. All right, let's see if it's up now. It looks like it is. Go ahead and log in there. So now we see we have 0 packages that can be updated, so we are fully up to date, and we are able to move on to the next step. So first of all, there's some packages that I need to install, and I'm going to give you a list of the first packages we need to install. So these are the packages that we're going to be installing. So sudo apt install, we're going to install Apache 2, which is the web server. We need a database server, and MariaDB is MySQL compatible, so it's a good one to install. We need PHP. We need MySQL support for PHP. Even though we installed MariaDB, the MySQL PHP package here is compatible with that. libapache2, it's a little wrapped here, but libapache2 mod PHP. We want to basically allow Apache's web server to use PHP. We also need XML support for PHP. And then mbstring, that's another PHP add-on we need. So I'll press enter. And it's going to install quite a few dependencies here. I'll press enter again. All right, there we go. We have the first few packages installed. I'll clear the screen. And the next step is actually to do the MySQL secure installation, which is basically a script that allows us to set some safe defaults. So I'm going to do sudo MySQL secure underscore installation. Even though this is MariaDB, same thing. They're both compatible. So press enter, and it's going to ask for my password. Now it's asking for the current root password. We haven't set one yet, so I'll just go ahead and press enter because we don't have one. And it's asking, do we want to set one? I recommend that you do that. So I'll press enter to select the default of yes. And what you want to do is type a very long secure password here. Again, because this is a disposable Linode, I'm going to delete after this video is done recording. I don't care, but in your case, you do want something long. I'll go ahead and type in mine and type it in again. Do you want to remove anonymous users? Enter for yes, which is the default. Disallow root login remotely. Absolutely. There is almost never a good reason to allow outside connections to a MySQL server. So we don't want our MySQL server to be remotely available. So I'll just, again, accept the default by pressing enter, which will disallow that. Do you want to remove the test database? Yes, we do. And I'll press enter again. Reload the privilege tables now? Yes. So now we have some safe defaults for the database server here. And of course, we can make this a lot more secure. I could do an entire series on security, but for the purposes of this video, it's good enough for now. So we'll go ahead and continue to the next step. And for the next step, we have some more packages that we need to install. So sudo apt install. I'll give you some packages that you can install. Some of these are optional, but I recommend that you install them. And I'll give you a quick description of what they actually do. So first we have PHP APCU, which basically will allow you to take advantage of the alternative PHP cache, which will boost performance a little bit. So next we have ImageMagick, which is a little misspelled there. And that's used for image thumbnailing, so recommended for that for sure. And then PHP curl, which is required for some extensions. Internationalization support, we get that from PHP-intl. So go ahead and install that as well. So let's go ahead and just go with these for now. So I'll press enter. And of course it needs some dependencies, so I'll just go ahead and press enter again, let these install, and I will be right back. I'll just fast forward through this part. All right, those are all set. So the next thing we want to do is actually download MediaWiki, and we want to get that downloaded file onto our server. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, what we're going to do is open a web browser. So I'll go ahead and do that now. And here I am on the actual MediaWiki website. So what we want to do is find the download link, which is actually right here. So I'll click on that. And we're not actually going to download this to our local computer, but what we're going to do is actually get that onto our Linode or whatever your server is. So I'm going to right click on that, copy link address, and then I'm going to switch over to the terminal. And I'm going to use wget, and then I'm going to go ahead and paste that in there. So if you're using Linux like me, it's just Control-Shift-V for paste, and I'll press enter. It's going to go ahead and download that. So now that we have that downloaded, I just do ls. You see that it's there. So the version number could and probably will be different by the time you get to this video, depending on when you're watching that. So we need to actually have a place to put it. So we're going to do sudo mkdir, and we're going to create var lib MediaWiki. Press enter. So now we've created that directory. We need to extract this file. So tar-xvf media, and we could just tab complete to complete the file name there. I'll press enter. All right, so now we have the extracted version right here. So I need to move this into the actual directory where it's going to be hosted out of. So I'll just type the command out here. So basically what I'm going to do, and I just shortened this by using the asterisk because I was too lazy to type the entire thing. I'm basically taking everything that's in this directory, and I'm going to be moving it over into this one right here. So I'll press enter, and just to make sure it copied properly, we can see that we have all those files there, which is exactly what we need. So let me clear the screen. Okay, so we have the files in place, and we have a database server. But we need the installation to be able to talk to the database server. We need to create a database. So what do we do for a database? How do we create that? So what I'm going to walk you through right now is setting up the database for our MediaWiki. So let's go ahead and get started. So first of all, a shortcut to get into the MySQL shell is just sudo MySQL, and I say MySQL interchangeably even though this is MariaDB. Sorry in advance for that. But anyway, I press enter. And we can see we're in the MariaDB/MySQL shell right here. We know that because our prompt did change. So what we need to do is create a user for MediaWiki. So in caps, I'm going to type create user, and the caps are optional. It's just proper form to separate SQL syntax from actual information. But I'm going to call my user MediaWiki, and I put it in single quotes right there, at, and then in single quotes here, localhost. And basically that just means that we're creating this user and limiting their access to localhost. Again, we do not want to have external connections to this machine at all. And then we're going to do identified by, and inside these single quotes right here, I'll type a super secret password. Hopefully your password is better than mine. And then I'll press enter. We can see that the query is okay. So next we need to create a database for MediaWiki. So create database. We're going to call it MediaWiki, if I can spell it right, _DB semicolon, just like that. I'll press enter. And now that we have a database, we need to give our MySQL user complete rights over that database. So I'm going to grant all on MediaWiki DB, basically just the name of the database, all of its tables and information, and I'm going to grant that permission to the user we created, MediaWiki at localhost, and localhost needs to be in quotes here, semicolon to end that command, and then press enter. All right, and that's basically it. We can do Control-D to exit out of the MariaDB shell. And we are back on our normal Linux shell. So our database is set up. So the next thing that we need to do is finish the MediaWiki setup here. So we're going to do sudo ln-s var lib MediaWiki, and we're going to link that in var www html MediaWiki. So basically we're creating a symbolic link. Press enter. And we need to enable the MB string PHP mod. So it's sudo php nmod MB string, enter. I'll press the up arrow. I also need to enable XML as well. I'm too lazy to type the entire thing again. I'll press enter. And we've enabled those PHP mods. From this point here, we should probably restart Apache. So sudo systemctl restart Apache 2, because we did actually edit its configuration and make a lot of changes here. So I'll press enter. And just to make sure it's running, we can see that it is running. So Q to get out of that, clear the screen. So next what we want to do is disable the default site. We don't need the default site because we're going to be setting up our own. So basically what we can do is use the default site that comes with Apache as a starting point. So I'm just going to do sudo copy or cp. So that's the configuration file that Apache ships with by default. And I'm going to make a copy of that into this directory, Apache 2 sites available, which is the same directory. But what I'm going to do is call it, we'll just name it MediaWiki.conf. That's fair. I'll press enter. And now what we need to do is edit that file. So sudo nano etc Apache 2 sites available MediaWiki.conf. Enter. And again, this is just a copy of the default Apache configuration file. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go down here to where it says document root, and I'm going to change that var www html MediaWiki. So that's basically just setting the document root to the directory that we are sharing our MediaWiki files from. Now, if you have a domain, which is probably recommended, you can actually add the server name here. and then it'd be mywiki.mydomain.com, whatever yours happens to be. Actually, we already see that right here. I'm just going to go ahead and leave that out for now, since I don't have a domain name for this particular server. And I'm just going to save the file, close out of it, and then I'm going to do sudo a2nsite MediaWiki, and tab complete works here. I'll press enter. So before we actually reload Apache like it's telling us that we should do, I'm just going to disable the default site. So sudo a2 dis site 000 default, enter. And now I disabled the default site. So I should be able to do systemctl reload Apache 2. And I should have used sudo, but I didn't. But that's fine. I can still type in my password. So let's just make sure that Apache is running. So again, systemctl status Apache 2. Just make sure none of the configurations were wrong, because Apache will fail if it's finding a problem. And everything looks okay so far. All right, so the question now is it working so far? It's not completely set up yet, but we do want to make sure that everything we've done so far is working. So does it come up when we enter the IP address into a web browser? Well, in my case, yes, because I've actually already done that. I just wanted to make sure I didn't make any mistakes while I was recording, and I didn't. So I just basically entered the IP address here in the address bar, and we can see that I do have the MediaWiki page. It is asking us to set up the actual server. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And here it's asking for English, so of course you'll just set that to whatever your preferred language is. Click continue, and it's giving us some environmental checks, and everything is checking out to be okay. It gives me this green text right here. So I'll click continue, and now it's going to ask me for the information for the database, and it's automatically selecting MariaDB, MySQL are compatible. Database host is localhost. That is correct. So the database name, we want to make sure that we give that the correct name. If you recall, we named ours. I'll get rid of this right here. MediaWiki_DB. And then the username, we called it MediaWiki. In my case, the password was super secret password. Click continue, and it seems to be okay. So use the same account as for installation, that's fine. So what I'll do is just click continue. Name a wiki, whatever you want to call it, Learn Linux TV Wiki. You can see that the history is still here from when I did the wiki for the YouTube channel there. And then for administrator account, I'll just create one for myself actually. Simple password for now. You'll put in your actual email address there, and I'll uncheck this since it's just a test interface, and I'm just going to go ahead and just bypass this and go right into it, but you can explore that those additional options if you want to. Click continue, continue again. All right, so when I went to mine, I had to basically click on the setup again, and it gave me this local settings.php, which before happened automatically, but that's fine. I just had to click on that link and it went ahead and downloaded that. You see that downloaded file is right here. So on my terminal here, I'm just going to open up a new tab. You can open up a new terminal if you want to. This is going to basically get me to my local bash shell, and what I need to do is get that local settings.php uploaded to my server. So to do that, I'm going to use SCP, and it's in my downloads directory, and that's the file name. Now where do I want to copy it to? In my case, I'm going to use the IP address of my Linode, my server. I'm going to put a colon at the end, and the colon at the end basically defaults to the home directory of whatever user you're using. And in my case, it's going to be my user, my local user, which is fine. I'll press enter, type in my password, and it did copy it. If I go back to my MediaWiki server here and do ls, you see that I now have local settings.php listed right there. Now, what I want to do is actually make sure that this is owned by the user that Apache is running as. So what I want to do is sudo chown. I want to change the ownership of that file. I'm going to change it to the user www data, group of also www data, so limits it to the Apache user. And then the file I'm changing the ownership on is local settings.php. Then I'm going to do sudo chmod 600 on that file because I really don't want anyone to view that file because it contains very confidential information. All right, clear the screen. So now what I want to do is move local settings.php into the same directory that we have all of our MediaWiki files. We're going to go ahead and move it in there. I'll press enter. And let's go ahead and see if that satisfies the requirement of MediaWiki. So I'll switch back over to my web browser right here. And I'm just going to revisit this page and see if this works. And there we go. We have a MediaWiki installation on Linode or whatever your chosen provider is. And we went through the setup process, and now we have a place that we can go and add our documentation. And if you're a fan of this channel, go ahead and check out wiki.learnlinux.tv, which was set up on Linode and is the official wiki of this channel, where you'll find show notes for this video and all other videos going forward. So there you go, guys. I hope that was helpful for you, and enjoy your new MediaWiki installation. Thank you so much for watching my video, guys. I really appreciate it. And if you want to help me out, go ahead and check out the links in the show notes below this video, where I have a link to my Patreon page, as well as an Amazon store where I have a listing of hardware that I've personally tested myself to be compatible with Linux. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe, and I look forward to making more videos for you guys very soon. Thanks again.